Good morning and welcome to another Chamber of Commerce Day here in Scottsdale. Weather-wise, it's March and there's no better place to be on the planet right now than Scottsdale, Arizona. And from program-wise as well, today is Scottsdale Forward, and it's one of our signature events and a highlight on our calendar. Scottsdale Forward is the signature economic development event by the Chamber. This initiative is held every year, and it's an opportunity to learn, to create conversation with a goal to address with the business community the economic development vision, the needs, and the current experiences that our city is undertaking now from a diverse perspective. Every year we learn a lot, and this year will be no different. Some housekeeping things first. Special acknowledgement to Dr. Jan Gaylor and the Scottsdale Community College for hosting us again for a beautiful event this year. How about a round of applause for Scottsdale Community College? We've got some dignitaries and special guests in the audience that I'd like to recognize as well. Today with us is Vice Mayor Virginia Cordy. We have council members Suzanne Clapp, Linda Milhaven, Guy Phillips, David Smith, Kathy Littlefield as well. We've got Mark Stanton, a Paradise Valley council member as well. How about giving them a round of applause for being with us this morning? This event also would not be possible without the support of all the organizations that step up to help us sponsor this event. The Chamber would like to thank our presenting sponsor, Cox Business. Our panel sponsor is Arizona Public Service. Our executive sponsor, Wells Fargo. We have some corporate sponsors as well, ASU, Banner Behavioral Health, Cigna, and SRP. Our breakfast sponsors are Alliance Bank of Arizona, Arizona Bank and Trust, First Bank, Russ Lyon Sotheby's and Jane Blacker, and we have in-kind sponsors as well. Scottsdale Community College, of course, Pro One Media Productions, Scottsdale Video Network, the City of Scottsdale. It's amazing, but it takes an army to put this event on. How about a big round of applause for everybody who played a part in that this year? So to welcome us to Scottsdale Community College, it's my privilege to be able to invite to the stage Dr. Jan Gaylor, President of Scottsdale Community College. Give it up for Jan.
Good morning, Scottsdale. On behalf of the entire Artichoke family, welcome to Scottsdale Community College. We are honored to host this event. It's been a pleasure, and I always know that it's time for Scottsdale Forward because my office furniture disappears. No sacrifice is too great. So, great cities with a robust and a healthy economy are always accompanied by great higher education institutions or education institutions. Scottsdale certainly passes that test. Scottsdale Unified School District is a high-performing school district, one of the leaders in the state of Arizona and likely beyond. Wonderful teachers, dedicated teachers and staff, principals and community members all coming together to make it so. Scottsdale hosts a wide variety of private schools, both everything from kindergarten through high school and beyond. Lots of choice in Scottsdale. And certainly, just down the street, Arizona State University, a University Research One institution, bringing all the value and the assets that designation connotes. And right in the middle is Scottsdale Community College, an excellent community college, an excellent opportunity for not only our residents, but for our students across the valley, across the United States, and even internationally. Now, by any quantitative or qualitative measures, we provide excellent educational opportunities. And it isn't enough that I believe so or say so. For the last 3 evaluative rounds, Scottsdale Community College has been listed among the top 150 colleges in the United States. That's about 10% of the total number of community colleges in the U.S. And that designation comes, from the prestigious Aspen Institute for Excellence in the Community College. And so it's, I'm pretty biased, but we have wonderful faculty and staff and community partners that help make that a possibility. And if that isn't good enough, we are the only public 2-year institution that sits on tribal land, and we are very proud of the partnership that we have built with the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community, and you're going to hear from President Ray here in a couple minutes. So if you remember nothing else from what I say, remember one line: Scottsdale is a great place to live, learn, work, and play. Enjoy the program, and thank you for being here today, folks.
Thank you, Jan. Thanks for all you do, and thanks for being such a key part of our community and making things happen here in Scottsdale. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome President Delbert Ray of the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community.
Morning. Welcome to Salt River. I don't know what else to add on to what Dr. Geller has just said, because being here, Scottsdale Community College has given us good opportunity. It's good to have all the visionaries sitting before me to maintain a sturdy economy. I think that's what it's all about. I just want to say that we are the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community. We're comprised of two tribes, the Onakamara'atam, the Pima, and the Pipash, Ilchidom Pipash, which is commonly known as Maricopas. It's all about partnerships. We were just talking, Dr. Yellen and I've been in office now. I'm on my last year of a 4-year term. And when you're ahead of it, it looks like a long time. Time just goes so fast, I'm glad in the time that I've served the community here that we've developed some really strong relationships. I heard some names being mentioned, the Scottsdale Council. Welcome to each and every one of you, all of you from the business community. I just want to say that that partnership is very important, because when we consider these kinds of ventures, Salt River, we're known for our hospitality. So we always look at how does this impact others around us. So we've always been mindful. But I just want to say that you're very welcome here in the Salt River community. I'm very honored to be here among you, just to present this time of welcome that, and I know that you'll have a very good session here today, again, just to continue to build on what we have already. So with that, I'm just gonna say welcome and have a good time of learning. God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. President. So now I'd like to introduce Scottsdale's Mayor Jim Lane and our Economic Development Director Danielle Casey. And to do that, please turn your attention to the screen.
Whoa, Scottsdale Forward today? Oh man, I really hate to miss it, but it can't be helped. Well, welcome to the Chamber's Scottsdale Forward, a great event, and I'm really sorry to have miss it. Maybe we can get Danielle Casey to cover for me and fill in for me. Gotta run.
Well, I'd actually love to help, Mr. Mayor, but I'm not really going to actually be in town. Our whole team actually has a very good reason for that. We're going to be at the South by Southwest Trade Expo in Austin, Texas, and we're going to be there to promote the city of Scottsdale as a top location of choice to business and talent. The South by Southwest trade show floor will be visited by 75,000 conference attendees over 4 days. So why are we choosing this conference to attend, other than that there's a lot of people there? Forbes actually calls it an indisputable showcase of the hottest tech trends across industries. Attendees come from more than 100 countries, making it a great place to gain exposure for our business brand and to meet new domestic and international companies that may be interested in scaling their operations in Scottsdale. 87% of the attendees have a bachelor's degree or higher, 59% earn more than $100K a year, and 1/3 are self-employed or own small businesses. Access to labor is a top corporate location factor for our existing businesses, as well as those we'd like to bring to the city. To that end, we are also featuring a new Choose Scottsdale job board on our website, which provides a place for talent to find jobs at Scottsdale companies, along with great community information like healthcare, housing, education, and recreation. Help us on our marketing during the show on social media. Be sure to use hashtag Choose Scottsdale and hashtag SXSW. Thanks again to the Scottsdale Area Chamber for inviting me to participate in Scottsdale Forward, no matter where I am at. Again, I am so sorry to miss such a fantastic annual event as Scottsdale Forward, but I've got to go get packed up for this trade show. Thanks again.
We thank Mayor Lane and Danielle for all their hard work and commitment for all they do to make our city someplace special. Now, at this time, we'd like to welcome David Bentler, Manager of Community and Economic Development of Arizona Public Service, who's today's panel moderator. But first, please enjoy this short video.
video showcasing these 4 major events and venues that we have in Scottsdale. I mean, we're so very fortunate. These are huge economic builders in Scottsdale and the state of Arizona. Economic engines, excuse me, they bring so much entertainment and excitement to Arizona, and we're just very fortunate to have them. Excuse me. I'm David Bentler with APS, and I'm just very honored to be your moderator for this amazing panel. So with that, we're just going to bring this panel out here and get this started. So to get this kicked off, we're going to bring out, we'll start with the greatest show on grass, the caretaker of the Waste Management Phoenix Open Golf Tournament, the big chief of the Thunderbirds, ladies and gentlemen, Andy Markham. Thank you, Andy. And next, from the world's largest collector car auction, selling over $116 million of cars this year, the general manager of Barrett-Jackson. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Nick Cardinelli. Thank you, Nick. Now moving on to spring training. A previous city councilman for the city of Scottsdale, now the executive director of the Scottsdale Charros, who manages the San Francisco Giants training facility, or the training facility here in downtown Scottsdale. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Dennis Robbins. Thank you, Dennis.
See ya.
And finally, the person responsible for the sales and marketing of the huge Westworld facility in northern Scottsdale.
My slides even look like, so I know what to talk about.
Hosts hundreds of, I like that, hundreds of events in Westworld. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Carter Unger. Hey, Carter, have a seat. All right, welcome everybody. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, you guys, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for what you do. I mean, the energy you bring to Scottsdale and the state of Arizona, as well as the economics that you bring to Arizona and Scottsdale, is just amazing. And that's the kind of some of the stuff we want to talk about today. So appreciate that. And we're going to try and save some time for the audience to ask a few questions as well. And we have some technology that'll allow you to answer a couple questions. A little nervous about that. It didn't work yesterday, but it's going to work today. So we need you guys to help us out with that. Let's just start off with the big chief. Big chief of the Thunderbirds, Andy Markham. You just finished off with a record year this year, 700,000 participants in attendance. I was one of them. Tell us about the financial impact to the city of Scottsdale and to Arizona for that fact. And then also I know that you do a lot of charities as well, so maybe chat about that a little bit.
Sure. Like you said, we had 716,000 people this year, which is a record. We've broken records the last 4 years in a row, kind of going back to 2015 when we had the Super Bowl here. And Arizona and Scottsdale has been the beneficiary of having larger sporting events kind of in the same time frame. So in 2015, we had the Super Bowl and the Waste Management Phoenix Open. In 2016, we had the Open and obviously the National Championship football here. And then last year, we had the Final Four. So we've been able to piggyback on a lot of that. But not only, is it just that we had 716,000 people, including 200 and some had plus 1,000 on Saturday alone. All those people really they bring something bigger to the whole perspective.
Sure.
We do a study through ASU, through the WP Carey School, and it proved that in 2017, the economic impact was over $410 million to Scottsdale and Maricopa County in the state of Arizona. So
That's amazing.
The tournament also generates about 50 plus million in gross revenue, which in fold lets us give, somewhere between $10 and $11 million to 200 Arizona-based charities. So It's a labor of love, and
It's amazing.
every time somebody comes out and watches golf and has a beer or a hot dog, it goes to local charities. So we're proud to be a part of that.
I'm proud to contribute to that as well.
Likewise, me too.
So Nick, we moved from the largest sporting event in the world to the largest auto auction, the Barrett-Jackson. Nick, so much talk and so much energy that goes on at this event. Give us a little highlight about the final sales results this year and how that affects the Scottsdale and Arizona economy. And also, I know that you do charities as well. I always see, every once in a while, I see that car up there. This is going to charity. So tell us about all that.
Yeah, well, we had another successful year this year. We had 325,000 people come through the gates over 9 days, after 700,000. But over the 9 days, we sold over 1,700 cars. We're primarily no reserve auction, so we had 99% sell-through rate. The cars that were there, almost every single one of them sold for $116 million. On the charity front, we raised over $6.21 million this year for charity. And that's over 100 million now over the life of the company. So we're very excited to reach that pinnacle. We had over 5,000 bidders, which was a record for us. Of those 5,000, almost 1,900 of them were new, bringing new people into the hobby and into the community. We had bidders from all 50 states, which was exciting to see, over 13 countries. We were live on television for over 37 hours internationally, broadcasted. And the economic impact, we did a study actually in 2016, a joint study with the city of Scottsdale. And just for Scottsdale alone, Barrett-Jackson brings in about $168 million to the community of economic impact. So, big time to that.
Thank you. That's great. Dennis Robbins. We now move to the Major League Baseball spring training event. The Cactus League, and in particular, the Charros are in charge of the San Francisco Giants down in Old Town Scottsdale. And I know it's just so, right now, it's going on right now, and it's so exciting to see all the people walking around with Giants jerseys and other jerseys and using those bicycles, and it's real vibrant downtown right now, so this is exciting. So tell us about your attendance numbers, I guess, and your financial impact to the city of Scottsdale. And I know you guys do charitable work as well.
Yeah, so we've had 12 spring training games already this year of our 16. Almost 200,000 people attend spring training game in Scottsdale Stadium. And the economic impact is amazing. So the Cactus League does a study every couple years, and 2 years ago, the economic impact to the Valley from spring training is $544 million. And to put that in perspective, the last Super Bowl that was here was $500 million. So you don't realize it, but spring training is like having a Super Bowl every single year here in the Valley. So it's extremely important. I have a friend who owns a restaurant in downtown Scottsdale, Old Town Scottsdale, and he does 40% of his annual sales in March.
Oh.
So it's incredible, and it's because of spring training, of course, and you know our hotels are busy, our restaurants are busy, and shopping is packed. So it's a driver, obviously. And our charities, so we didn't start out as a charitable organization. We really were there, the boots on the ground, taking tickets and working concessions and making spring training happen since the early 60s. But over the years, we've been able to raise money for the community by selling programs and advertising. We have the Charro Lodge in right field. And so over the life of the Charros in this community, we've given back over $15 million into Scottsdale specifically. Last year, $1 million alone. And about half that goes into public education, and the other half goes to local charities. So it's spring training does it for us, and it's been a great economic driver.
Fantastic. Thank you. Carter, first I just want to say we're so sorry to hear the passing of your father, Fred Unger, earlier this year. He was such a visionary, such a wonderful person. We loved him as a board member of the Chamber of Commerce, Scottsdale Chamber of Commerce, and our heartfelt condolences to you for that.
Thank you.
So now we move to the national recognized multi-use, the premier multi-use event facility in the Southwest, Westworld, and it's the home of 100 events. I don't know how many events it is. You tell me.
Over 120.
120, there you go.
That's right.
Truly an economic engine for Scottsdale and Arizona. Can you tell us about the audience, tell us about the financial contributions to the state, I guess, or to the city?
Sure.
As far as
A lot of people, or some people, aren't aware that the Westworld is ran and operated and owned by the city of Scottsdale, and they do a tremendous job of doing that. The city had the foresight and vision to do the remodel and renovation that completed in 2014 so that we could climate control and run this amazing facility year-round. That has allowed us to increase our events from around 80 to over 120. Our attendance numbers now are up over 900,000, close to 1 million a year.
Oh my goodness.
And like most municipality or county-ran facilities, the real benefit to the area is in the direct economic impact and indirect impact. Unlike many other facilities, Westworld does an amazing job, thanks to all the staff there, of running very efficiently. Whereas we are a general fund, but unlike a lot of other organizations, we are able to bring in money to offset those costs. And we run at about 95% efficiency, which is amazing for this type of venue, and then create hundreds of millions of economic impact dollars for the area. We have events year-round now in the summertime, from children's festivals to RV shows to home shows, Pinners conferences, off-road expos, international sportsmen's expos and hunting, all kinds of things. And the real beneficiary, and not that it's a nonprofit, but we don't do it for profit at Westworld. So the real beneficiaries of this nonprofit, if you will, are the citizens, not only through that economic development and taxes, but also through creating a greater sense of place, a love of the city, because there's activities and events that appeal to a wide demographic of people. And it's that remodeling that happened in 2014 that we've now capitalized on, that it's allowed us to increase events in quantity, but also quality, and diversify the types of events we have here. It'd be great to have Barrett-Jackson year-round. I think nobody would disagree, but we can't, so we got to fill it with all kinds of other things that the public's looking for, and we're excited to be doing that.
Thank you. That's wonderful. So, all right, so we're going to go to another question here for the panel, for all of you, actually. What are the contributing factors to your event's success, and how does it relate to your location in Scottsdale? So we'll start off with, well, Nick, we'll start with you. Shake it up here.
Got this mic here.
Oh.
Is it working now? There we
Yeah.
go. All right, perfect. So, well, Barrett-Jackson has been around in this community 47 years, and obviously we're partners with the city of Scottsdale and Westworld. So I think we get a lot of support from the community, which is great for our success. We've turned ourselves into an internationally recognized brand, and Barrett-Jackson now is considered a bucket list event up there with the Kentucky Derby and Super Bowl, and we get people coming from all over the world to come to our event, which really helps. Live television is huge for us, especially in our space. There's not a lot of people doing live. I don't think anyone's actually doing live television. There might be another auction house that does television, but live television, the major corporate sponsors, Ford, Dodge, GM, getting that type of support. I also think our no reserve format is very unique. Nobody else does a no reserve format. It's very hard to do a no reserve format because you have to prove that you can have the buying power in the room to sell those cars. It's a scary thought if you think to bring your car of that level, a $100,000 car, and you're saying, sell it for me, I hope it does well. You don't get to take it back. So I think those are kind of the most important factors. Being in Scottsdale in January obviously helps. That's great. We have a lot of Canadian, East Coast, and Midwest customers that love to be here in Scottsdale. It's such a beautiful place to be, especially this time of year. So I think that helps us as well. And the venue, Westworld is a very unique venue, and we're very fortunate to have it because it allows us to really grow and expand in ways that you can't do in a lot of other venues. As people know, we're in Palm Beach, Florida, we're in Las Vegas, we're in Connecticut, and none of those venues allow us to do what we're able to do at Westworld. And we're very fortunate to have the city behind us and allow us to do that. So.
Great, thank you. Dennis, how about you?
Well, we can't do what we do in spring training without great partners. I mean, it's a team. And so the city of Scottsdale, city council are amazing and are huge supporters. Obviously, the San Francisco Giants, a great team. And then the fans, we couldn't do it without the fans. Buying programs, buying concessions and tickets, coming to the Charles Lodge. So partnerships are key, and maintaining those relationships are very important. And of course, the proximity of the stadium, where it's located, is huge. Nobody else has a stadium in their downtown. The location close to shopping and dining and hotels is second to none, and so it makes the experience better than any other Cactus League experience. The grass out front of the stadium and the trees is so inviting, and then when you walk in, you're close to the field and to the players, and it just has a great vibe, and there's nothing else like it in the Cactus League. So those things help us tremendously. And then the pioneers who had the vision to create this, they carved out a corner of a farm in downtown Scottsdale and built a small field and a little tiny stadium and started to promote baseball in the desert. And it's really grown, and we're lucky to have it where it's at, and it makes it one of the best experiences that you can have in spring training.
I agree. Thank you for that. Carter, how about Westworld?
Westworld's all about location, ease of use for both the producers and the attendees, and convenience. We're located right off the 101, which makes it very accessible for people all across the valley or individuals flying in to either produce an event or attend an event. We are easy to get to. We don't have to deal with parking issues since we have over 11,000 parking spaces. Event producers find our large 386 acres to be easy to get in and out of, space to grow, as Nick pointed out. And all of these things right at the base of the McDowell Mountain Preserve, which is gorgeous and such an asset for the city. all these things make it an ideal place to host events and makes it easy for, if I'm taking my own family to an event, I like where I can pull right into a lit parking lot right next to the building. I don't have to worry about walking blocks to get somewhere like other facilities. So it's all about ease of use, convenience, and a beautiful location. Not to mention, the city undertook this amazing task by partnering with the federal government. And the good news is, and a lot of people don't realize, again, that we're on a federal water retention basin for that, 100 million, whatever year storm. So it's never going to go away. We're not at risk of development.
Unless you have that 100
losing.
million year storm.
Right, correct. That would be bad. But we have this location right in prime heart of down Scottsdale that will always be there for the community. And that's a great asset.
Fantastic. And the Big Chief, which I'm very jealous of your name, by the way. I'd love it for someone to call me the Big Chief sometime.
That's great. I get it for 2 more months. So
Okay, for 2 more months.
You can say it as much as you want today.
All right.
These guys pretty much said, a lot of the reasons why we're successful. I think similar to the Giant Stadium, that the PGA and the Thunderbirds had the vision to locate the TPC in North Scottsdale 30 years ago. We just celebrated our 30th anniversary of the Open at the TPC, and years before that, it was at Phoenix Country Club. Well, we ran into all the issues, right? The tournament started getting bigger and bigger, and you just couldn't house that many people at Phoenix Country Club at 7th Street and Thomas. So when we moved it to Scottsdale, we had great partners in the PGA and the city of Scottsdale. We've got awesome partners in the first responders. We couldn't do it all without the fire department, the police department, the city managers, just the Scottsdale, brass, if you would. And again, there's no better place in the world to be in than Scottsdale, Arizona during, the winter or the spring. So it has become a bucket list. We do get people from all over the world. And, the biggest factor too is our biggest partner is the weather. So we've had such great weather. We've got awesome fans. We've got great business leaders that support us, not only locally, but nationally. But we couldn't do it without, the city of Scottsdale as our partnership. So.
And you did a great job with the weather this year.
I was in charge of the weather.
Yes,
so
that was the Big Chief's job. So here's for the panel. What are the challenges that could threaten your continued success in Scottsdale? This is a very important question. So you know what? We're going to shoot over here to Carter. Start with you. What are the challenges that could threaten your continued success in Scottsdale?
I think one of the biggest ones would be complacency. We completed this amazing facility remodel, enclosure so we could have everything climate controlled in 2014, and it's a world-class facility, and we're finding great results from producers coming and wanting to be part of it, but it's very easy for that to fall behind. The event world is constantly changing, venues are always updating and upgrading, and if we feel we can just sit back and not try to stay competitive, we're gonna lose out and it'll happen quickly. So as long as we are continuing to invest in capital improvements and the other necessary things to stay competitive, I think, the location and everything else will keep us on par with the best venues in the country. But we gotta make sure that we continue to grind and we continue to reinvest and keep moving forward.
Absolutely, appreciate that. Dennis?
Well, you stole my word, complacency. I was taking it for granted. We need to be vigilant about increasing the fan experience, making it better all the time. And that's not only the service that we provide and the team that we have, and the location obviously is fantastic, but we need to make sure that we're constantly making the fan experience better. So the city and the Giants and the Charles all contribute to a capital improvement fund every year. We make small improvements to the facility. This year we added a couple half fields and a little green space for the players to practice in the back, but we're also in the middle of updating the master plan for the stadium and taking a look at, what's the long-term 30-year vision for the stadium. How do we make it better for the Giants and for the citizens and for the fan experience? And so we're going through that process right now, and the Giants have a wish list as they do, and we've made improvements. Obviously, we rebuilt the stadium in '92. We made upgrades in 2005, and so here we are again looking at upgrades again and making it a better fan experience, adding shade, adding amenities. And I think the other thing is, from a citizen standpoint, is to make it more multi-use. So how can we have more festivals and events and meetings there as well? So when baseball's not here, how do we take advantage of the location of that stadium that does so well in the month of March that also can take advantage of its location other times of the year as well? So I think that's the vision, is to make something that's already a great place to have an event even better on the other months. And so that's what we're looking in partnership with the city and the Giants, the Tourism Development Commission, Experience Scottsdale. So we have a lot of people in that event space and tourism industry that are to want to improve the facility and not be complacent, resting on our laurels, just to take it for granted.
Fantastic. Nick?
I think in the event industry, we all have the same issues pretty much. But if I'm going to speak to Barrett-Jackson, what we have going on, for us, it's parking and covered space and asphalt. As of course, there's 11,000 parking spaces at Westworld, but we take over that entire space to put on the event. And I'm sure Andy here is going to talk about parking as well, because we kind of partner together and share those spaces. So I won't elaborate too much on that, but a lot of the areas that we use are owned by the land's owned by the state. And it's actually like a double-edged sword. It's a good thing. The state is slowly starting to auction off these lands to developers, which is good for the city, especially sold to the right developers. It's good for everybody. So it's something we can't get too upset about, but we do need to make sure we do have parking for our events that are going on. We've been very fortunate to have a great mayor, a great city council, and a great city manager to kind of hear out Barrett-Jackson's issues to keep Westworld where we need it to be. So we do have competition in the car auction space. Nobody wants to put their cars on dirt. The other issue is the covered space. The city tent has been a big issue back and forth. Some people consider it an eyesore, and we necessarily don't disagree, but that is covered space that we do need, not just for us, but Westward as a whole. There's a lot of different groups that use that city tent because of its proximity to the polo fields and where it's at, because the North Hall is just too far away. But tents have a lifespan, and the covering of the tent is, it's coming to the end of its lifespan. It's very expensive to replace that. But to completely dismantle that and take it down and have nothing there is going to be a costly endeavor. So hopefully we can find a way to, if we turn it into something else and use that money for something positive that we can all use for all the different events that use there, because it's not just Barrett-Jackson that uses it, and make everybody happy. So hopefully that's the goal we can get there.
Great. And I know the audience picked out the parking as well, so I think they noticed that as well. Big Chief.
Good. I'm glad you said Big Chief again. Again, I mean, like these guys said, we have a lot of the same issues. One thing I think we took on last year, we really made it our focal point, is the American sporting experience is changing and it's evolving. And somehow and somewhere the fan, not every fan, but some fans have taken on the belief that because you pay a ticket, you can act a certain way. So we took on an initiative last year, respect the game, respect the players, respect the fans. And when you're moving 700,000 people in, feeding them, drinking them, moving them out, you got to do it safely. So we run into infrastructure problems. And as far as I'm concerned, the Phoenix Open does not need to get any larger. I mean, we're about where we need to be. We have venues for everyone, but we also have wonderful partners. Again, I can't reiterate this enough, with our first responders, with fire, police, and just our city managers in general. But getting that many people in and out, becomes an issue. And we try to do it safely. We try to have the fans be our partners as well into doing it safely, so everybody has a great experience. But again, I think our biggest challenge is going to be parking. And just by the fan response to the audience response to the last question is, with the evolving of Uber and Lyft and public transportation, we're going to have to solve for the parking issue. And it's hard to move a lot of people in and out. So that's kind of what we're looking down at.
Great. Appreciate that. Well, I'm just going to leave you with this. This is our final question here, and maybe just a couple sentences if you could, if you want. What last thought would you like to leave this Scottsdale Forward audience regarding your events, or regarding anything, quite frankly?
I'd just like to, leave them with how thankful we are. Again, there's my buzzword of the day, partnership, and you can call me Big Chief afterwards again. But just how thankful we are to have such a great partnership. The communities of Scottsdale and Phoenix have afforded us to throw one of the biggest sporting events in the world, and all said and done, over the history of our tournament, we've given $122 million to charity, and we couldn't do that with all of our friends. So we're very, very thankful and fortunate.
Same thing. I think we're thankful for the partnership we have with the city and the city council and the city manager and the mayor. They've been so great to Barrett-Jackson, and I think tourism is such a big part of Scottsdale. I think the economic impact that all these events bring, trickle down to so many different levels, where it's the restaurants or the hotels, and then the tax dollars that go into the museums and the hiking trails and everything. And so Scottsdale is such a great place to live, and we're so fortunate to be able to put our events on here and just have the support from the community and everybody else. I mean, I couldn't imagine living anywhere else, so pretty lucky to have all 3 events like this here. So.
Appreciate that. Dennis?
Well, when you buy a ticket to attend a spring training game at Scottsdale, you not only have the best experience of any fan in Cactus League, but you're also giving back to the community. So it's a win-win for everybody, and it's a really unique experience that way for a sporting event, much like the Open, where your ticket also goes back into the community. And so that's what we're extremely proud of, hosting a good event that people love, but also the money goes back to those who are less fortunate, and we're super excited about that.
Carter?
Yeah, just thanks for having me, and I hope we can continue to move forward with all these great events in Scottsdale, and that the city stays committed and focused to moving Westworld continually into the future, so we can continue to partner with great events to create an amazing economic impact for the whole area. And that's really the main focus that we should all be, laser focused in on. Even if we're slightly under operational efficiency, really it's made up by time and time and time over again, by Barrett-Jackson alone, by home shows, by every other event that comes through and stays in hotels in the area and shopping. And it's unfortunate that sometimes the headlines and articles like to talk about some of the small losses, but as a venue that's really a city department, we're doing fantastic. And I think the city staff and the employees there deserve a lot of credit for that, and that should be the focus.
Absolutely, and you hit it right on the head there. Only in Scottsdale, I know a lot of cities across the nation are very jealous of what we have here. Nowhere else in the United States do they have these events like we do here. So let's give the hand to Andy, Nick, Dennis, and Carter for all that they do. Really appreciate this. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, David.
Amazing job, guys. Thank you. Yeah. All right, we're going to keep moving through the program here. We have another panel coming up, which is going to be, hopefully, live up to the expectations that one just did. But to get us started, please welcome today's presenting sponsor, Larry Silver. He's with Cox Business. He's Director of Mid-Market Sales. He's going to introduce our keynote presenters. Larry.
Again, my name is Larry Silver. I'm with Cox Business. It is my pleasure to be able to sponsor this event today. Cox Business has a long history of supporting economic growth in the community. We've been sponsoring this event for years, and we are truly grateful to Scottsdale Forward and the Chamber for allowing us to be a part of this. Thank you all for being here. Cox Business helps small, medium, and large businesses compete on a local, national, and global scale by providing the tools necessary. Steve Jobs once said that megabytes are the technology of the future. We're seeing that more and more, whether it's faster internet, more robust phone service, or a more secure business or network. It's what Cox does, so it was truly our pleasure to be able to sponsor today's event. So thank you, and again, thank you all for being here. It is my pleasure to be able to introduce our keynotes. I'm going to be introducing both Jim Thompson and Rachel Sacco, starting with Jim. He was appointed a city manager in January 2017. He has over 20 years of experience as a city manager, previously holding that position in Casa Grande, Bullhead City, and Bothell, Washington. Jim has also served on the Arizona State Personnel Board since 2004 and as an adjunct professor in ASU's Department of Public Affairs since 2011. He has a bachelor's degree in accounting from Indiana University and a master's degree in business administration from Regis University. And then we will have Rachel Sacco, who is the president and CEO of Experience Scottsdale, the sole organization responsible for marketing Scottsdale as a premier travel and meeting destination. Rachel's been an integral part of Experience Scottsdale since 1986, By the way, as of March 31st, she will be celebrating her 32-year anniversary with that organization. She started when she was 4. She became the organization's first president in 2001. She was named to the Governor's Tourism Hall of Fame in 2006 and was honored in 2011 by Scottsdale Leadership with the Drinkwater Leadership Award. Rachel is a national board member for the U.S. Travel Association and sits on the Arizona Lodging and Tourism Association board. When you read these, doesn't it make you feel a little bit humble, like, wow, what am I doing with my time? Are you all sitting there saying, I watch too much TV and I should be doing more of this work? Well, please keep watching cable TV. My children need you to do that. So please. But without any further ado, my deep thanks for being here and participating. And next up is Jim, followed by Rachel shortly after. Thank you.
Morning. And I suppose we have buttons here, so I think I'm good. All right, let's get past that one. Maybe. Excellent. I was asked to come today and talk about my first year in Scottsdale, and I'd like to reflect. I've been in government for over 30 years now. It's my 31st year, so I've been doing it a long time. I've had the opportunity to serve in multiple communities, and in Arizona, 4 actually, because I retired for about 2.5 weeks, and I know, crazy, right? And then I went down to Tucson and did an interim period of time in Tucson before I came here. So with Bullhead and Casa Grande as the other 2. So I've been in the state for over 20 years serving in capacity and city manager in various communities. So to have the opportunity to serve in Scottsdale is one of those that very few have an opportunity to work and to live and to be part of such a great community. Scottsdale is known throughout the world, but in particular in the state of Arizona, it is that community that everybody strives to be and wants to be. So to be in the position that I am is a great honor, and reflect on that accordingly. Also just, and I'll mention throughout, I have an excellent mayor and council to work with, tremendous staff, great community, and continue to look forward to success in the future. Put a picture of, basically I put pictures because everybody tries to put me in a box and it never works for them. So I really don't you won't see verbiage on my stuff. I like to talk about things that are going on. In particular, in what used to be kind of downtown, Old Town, but we're rebranding and trying to put the brand of Old Town on it. So to be Old Town Scottsdale. One of the major icons that we have down there is the Museum of the West. Wonderful, unique opportunity for us to have something that many communities would really be desirous to have. With that, we have a couple projects that are going on in that area. One is Loma. Some of you probably heard that the city was in the process of doing a sale purchase agreement with the development to put in a hotel and various multi-stage condos and other living space. But part of that is to put an open space area located with the museum and potentially look to do other improvements on and around the museum. We continue on that project, but I suspect in the next year we're going to start to see something very dynamic and wonderful in that portion, hopefully to activate the museum even more than what it already is. But it's a great amenity to have, and we're very proud of it. As we look through our entire downtown area, one of the other things that in Old Town area that we have is a canal. And I think that we've seen some tremendous improvements on the north side. You heard a little bit, not so much today, but influence of the south side of that canal. We have a great amount of opportunity. You see some projects going on now, but trying to get the larger landowners that, and there's 2 in particular that own a good portion of that south side of the canal, to get them to work together to truly start to tie everything together. May it be over by the museum, all the way up to the canal banks, then all the way over into what we tend to call the entertainment district and into Civic Center Plaza, but to start to tie it all together and do it in a way that's welcoming and consistent. Traditionally, what you see in a lot of communities, you have piecemeal. you'll have a project go in, and then there'll be a period of time, and then you'll have another project, and sometimes they don't relate together. We all know it because we drive through Scottsdale. There may be roads we're driving on, and all of a sudden the road ends. Hayden up north, good example. All of a sudden it dead ends. And so trying not to do that, but trying to keep an area where it becomes active and activates the entire area that you can enjoy. And so that's part of the canal convergence discussion. For those of you who have seen the artwork that's over the canal right now, it's absolutely beautiful. And if you get a light wind, it starts to move in the wind, and it's just amazing. I think it's beautiful. So there's a lot of activities going on the parcels on the waterfront. I suspect we'll see more of that in the next 2 years probably. We have another hotel, actually a few hotels planned for that area, and I suspect we'll have a similar development on the south as we do on the north. Old Town, just once again, the rebranding of Old Town. We did a study called Downtown 2.0, and part of that was to establish a brand, and so this is kind of the new logo for the Old Town area. We're trying to keep it fresh, active, and vibrant. You heard numbers earlier today of, in particular, at least on the restaurant side, the amount of activity that occurs in these few months here. And it's a make or break period of time for many businesses because there's so much opportunity. And so what we're trying to do is find ways to activate it all year round, not just heavily in one period. And that's hard to do, especially with the heat and the other things we have in the summer months. But we got 9 other great months to try to activate even more. And even in the summer, we'll try to do that. One of the things that we're very fortunate to have, and when you think about downtown districts, in our case Old Town, a lot of communities, many of us have probably visited them, where they don't have all the things that we have. You know, we have the large stadium, we have hotels, we have vibrancy in the sense of small shops, opportunities, art galleries, just something for everything. The entertainment section, we also have the mall. And if you go to many downtowns or central districts in communities throughout the country, they're missing pieces of that puzzle. But we have all the pieces of the puzzle to continue to build on, which is amazing. But Fashion Square in particular, they're going through some renovations, as many of us have probably experienced. They're wonderful renovations, and one of the things is that Fashion Square are very fortunate. They're bucking many of the national trends. Many of us look around, or we've gone places in the past and shopped, and we see malls closing down throughout. And we're fortunate. I don't think that's going to happen in ours. I look around and I say, who's going to be the last standing? And I think Fashion Square is going to be the last standing mall in the area. And that's great, at least for my lifetime. Beyond my lifetime, it's going to morph into something else. It has to. The changing buying patterns. And one of the things that we're challenged with the city, and I think most of the western United States, west of the Mississippi, we're not as heavy in property tax as maybe on the east side of the country, but we rely on sales tax. And what's happening with sales tax, when people shop online, more and more shopping online, the way the states distribute that tax is if you buy something online, it goes to the state, and the state redistributes it through population. So if we're spending, and our buying patterns in Scottsdale are such, especially with our tourism activity, if we're spending 6-7 times as much as a community of similar size, the state online, the state will collect that portion of money, and they'll get the same amount as us. I use Glendale as an example. If we have $10 in sales and sales tax generation, and they have $5, at the end of the day, they get $7.50, we get $7.50. So it's not distributed based on where that person lives, where they acquired it, online or otherwise. It's just based on strictly population. And so having the mall and having it be vibrant and having sales occur there is a wonderful thing. So I always tell everybody, if you have a choice, go to the mall, buy your item, or buy it in Scottsdale. And it makes a difference when you walk in and buy that. And keep in mind there's large employment associated with the retail segment in the community, and so that means employment, that means additional dollars in the economy that get to turn and move forward. But again, the changes that are occurring in shopping, I suspect that we'll see other malls in our region close, but Fashion Square is taking action to make sure that they're very viable and viable into the future. Side note on that too, two things that people tend to be in today's world, and I'm not sure if Rachel will touch on it or not. People are traveling now to enjoy various foods, call them foodies, as well as shopping venues. And so having a mall such as Fashion Square in the middle of downtown really opens the door for some of those new people experiencing travel in different ways than historically we have. You heard a lot about the stadium earlier. There is a lot going on with the stadium. Got projects from one end of the community to the other, and they're very diverse and very challenging for various reasons. No different with the stadium. We took out a portion of a parking lot over by the court to expand the fields on the backside that I think had been mentioned by Dennis, and we have a wonderful partnership with the Charros and the Giants, and we're continuing to work through that. It's an old stadium in the sense that it's somewhat aged in comparison to the new ones that are out there and what the team desires to have. The city's going to be challenged, working with all the partners to try to find ways to make some major improvements to that. I think there was discussion regarding activating the stadium much greater than what it has been in the past for open events to the community. To do so, we're going to have to make some additions and some changes. You're going to hear more about that as we continue to have discussions with the Charros and the Giants and all our partners and moving forward. But keep in mind, it's not going to be an inexpensive venture to achieve some of the things that we need to. Most of the stadiums you see out there that have recently been built, $120, $130 million or better being spent on those. And so for us, we're very fortunate. Its location is very unique and promising, but also the view. When I was out there, that was one thing that I just said, just amazing. You're sitting there and you're looking out at Camelback, or you're looking in a different direction and you see the McDowell, so you have beautiful views, picturesque views throughout the entire stadium, let alone its location. So wonderful opportunities in front of us, and hopefully in the next year, you're going to hear a lot about the stadium. It's consuming a lot of my time of recent. Everybody always wants to know what's going down on the McDowell corridor. I think finally we finally see major plans for the Pueblo Center, which is across the street from it. Everybody asks what's happening with that, and then I have all different opinions of what should happen with that, which is normally the case. But one in particular is the Element Hotel. It's a Marriott brand. It'll be going down on McDowell on the corridor, 148 rooms. Going to be a wonderful addition to that area. We continue to see development occurring, and SkySong continues to be full. I think their occupancy rate is one of the highest that they've ever experienced in the last couple of years. And there's a lot of startup companies in one of the facilities, which is great. We hope that they're successful. Then they locate their continuous efforts in Scottsdale in the future. A bunch of hotels planned in the downtown and Old Town and southern portion of the community now. Not going to talk about all those. I'm going to run out of time here shortly, but it's pretty exciting, and I believe that we're going to see a lot of synergy become of that. I'm going to start moving forward here a little bit quicker. Up north, I think one of the issues that was asked and talked about was parking. Obviously, a great view. You see portions out there that are on the north end, in your case, the upper end, which is state land. State land's been very active in the last year. I suspect probably in the next 6 to 12 months, many of these parcels will be put up for auction and acquired, eliminating some of our parking. So what do we do with parking? The past year since I arrived, we've been talking a lot about parking. We'll be probably coming forward to Mayor and Council in the near future to discuss some options available to what to do with the hundreds of thousands of people that come for our events up north and how to park them. Challenging for us, and hopefully we find solutions that work well. I know many venues out there today have to bus people great distances, and we're hoping to eliminate some of that need by ensuring that we have adequate parking for those issues that occur up north. They continue to grow. Great success. I think this year we had our biggest numbers yet at most of our major events up north. Went extremely well considering all the people that were up there, and we hope to continue to have great success in the future and see it grow. But we are going to be challenged with a few issues, in particular parking up on that north end. This is an exciting project. Some of you are probably, okay, what's happening? We've probably heard rumors about the Cracker Jack site. I know for many there's a long history there of a place for families to gather in Scottsdale, but it has been acquired. The Cracker Jack site, the new project called La Villa. It's 28 acres. It'll be a mixed-use project. If you look across the street at what's happening over in Phoenix, I suspect that you'll see something much, much grander than what's occurring on that other side with this project. It's a team of individuals who are the investors. I won't mention names, but a group that I think you will all know, respect, and know that the quality of their product will be tremendous. And I think we'll all be proud of it when it's done. And the ideas that they have for that site, I think it's really going to, it's a game changer. We have a lot of game changers. You look at Loma, you look at down at Skysong, some of the things that are going to happen there. You look at the north end, what we have going on there. And then you look in the kind of that other corridor, and this is one of those projects that you're proud to be part of, because I think it's going to make a major difference in the community and into the future. Just a side note, I wish I had more time to talk about this. One of the challenges we have right now is looking at our infrastructure needs and our overall needs in the city. And City Council, in their visionary process, and the mayor decided to form what we call the Capital Improvement Program Subcommittee of Council. And they've been talking for a good period of time now and discussing what are our needs. Our needs are about $800 million just for the projects that we've identified. Some of that is replacement of aging infrastructure. Some of it's new infrastructure to serve the community. Coming up here at the end of this month, the entire council will be discussing in greater detail what those financing options might be and how to look at that. And I suspect we'll have very diverse opinions, and I suspect we will at the end of the day come to some reasonable resolve for the community to consider. It's very, very challenging because I know it's tough, but again, for any of you that have the opportunity to engage with your neighbors, friends, family, what have you in Scottsdale, the need for our infrastructure financing is immense. And we'll be looking at a number that's much less, but I would strongly encourage you to become as familiar as you can with it, support it, and help us make Scottsdale and continue to be the wonderful city that it is. Without it, we are going to have aging infrastructure. We have aging infrastructure now. I don't want to go into that because sometimes it's an embarrassment to know that we have bridges that are falling apart and crumbling and things that are occurring throughout the community. But we really, really, really need to move forward with this, and I'm hopeful we can. And I think we'll have a great package coming forth this fall for the community's consideration. So again, please support it. If you have any questions or you feel the need to maybe be on the other side of that, I welcome coming and talking to anybody about it in as much detail as you need to ensure that we're well informed to make those decisions. Another portion of the job, one thing that I'm trying to spend more time with is the employees and those who make the difference on every given day. Without the 2,800 of them that we have out there doing their jobs and doing them well. We heard a little bit about police and fire earlier and some of these major events and the wonderful job that they do. But we have a workforce that's truly dedicated, and I'm very proud to be part of that. I'm very proud to represent them when I can, and I'm very proud to spend time with them and them sharing me what they do. So again, I never like to leave them out. They're the ones who really make the difference for us any given day, and they're out there working extremely hard. As I'm up here talking today, trying to ensure that we offer the best possible service that we can, and I think they do a wonderful job. And it's a tough job on some given days. That said, I'm done. Thank you.
Welcome to the stage, Rachel Sacco.
Good morning. I am so thrilled to be here today to support our chamber, to connect with you, the business community, and frankly, if there's ever any conversation about tourism happening, I want to be a part of it. So thank you for allowing me to do that. And what better month than March to talk about tourism and events? If you have been anywhere in Scottsdale, but particularly if you have been in downtown, this is palpable. You can really see and feel the impact of tourism. I mean, for me, when I'm downtown, I'm looking at all these people that are here from all over the country, and they can't wait to tell you how much they love Scottsdale. Do any of you have that experience? I mean, they just love it. They're spreading their love around, but they're also spreading their money around, which is great. It's not just in our hotels and resorts, but they're going to restaurants, they're going to the galleries, they're going to, of course, the stadium. So I have to remind people that I know March is our busiest month, but tourism is a 12-month business. It's just that it's so much easier in March when we can see our visitors because they're all wearing orange and black. But it is 12 months, and there's about 9 million visitors that are here through the course of a year. And I want to tell you that tourism, from our standpoint, and I hope from yours too in the business community, has been the foundation of what makes Scottsdale, Scottsdale. Just like spring training, it has a very long tradition, but I'll tell you that the tradition for tourism goes back well over a century. Believe it or not, it goes back way before Scottsdale was even incorporated as a community, which was about, I think, 67 years ago. Even then, people have traveled great distances from all over to come to Scottsdale. They came here for their health, they came here to rest, they came here to rejuvenate. And today, even though we're going to share with you some of our advertising messages, and yes, some of those have changed over the century, remarkably, our brand is still fairly the same. People come here from all over the country and the world, great distances, and for what? They come for the things that they can't see elsewhere, the Sonoran Desert, the wonderful amenities that we have grown here, but they still come also to rest and rejuvenate. And as visitors have been telling me throughout my entire career, they just come here because for some reason when they leave, they feel so much better. And that is a great brand to have. So I think it's safe to say that travel has definitely been what we've built our community and economic growth on, and it's still a really important part of Scottsdale, and it's continuing to grow. Even though our industry was very much impacted by the Great Recession. Everyone was. Ours very much so. I'm so happy to tell you that in 2017 we have made a slow but also a very steady recovery. And in 2017, our hotels and resorts saw growth in both rate and revenue. And, not accounting for inflation, we in Scottsdale, Arizona are outperforming all previous levels of any of our metrics, and we are outpacing the entire U.S. hotel industry in growth. I just have to say that again, because I haven't said that in about a decade. We are outpacing the entire U.S. hotel industry in growth. And for 2018, Smith Travel Research, STAR, is saying that we will also grow our occupancy, but we are also once again poised to outpace the entire U.S. hotel industry in both occupancy and revenue growth. I know, thank you. So, yes, our hotels are performing well and visitors are continuing to come. As I said earlier, we're outpacing about 9 million visitors every year. But even more important to all of us here, we're seeing growth in the spending that those visitors leave behind. These are dollars, again, that aren't just in the hotels, they're in restaurants and galleries and retail establishments. And for most of you in this audience, you're probably not in the tourism industry, but I hope that you see that your businesses also have a lift from this incredible engine, because those dollars that are going to perhaps your customers are also, I hope, lifting your company as well. So, experience Scottsdale. I can tell you, I was listening to the panel earlier, we are anything but complacent. If anything, we are nervous wrecks and anxiety about always staying. Now we're at the top, and now we're worried about when the bottom's going to happen again. So we are working really hard to make sure that we keep those numbers growing. And I don't know if you're aware how important those numbers are to our community. Those visitors are leaving behind an estimated $2.3 billion in terms of economic impact. And that's conservative, because that was done back in 2016. So our team takes this responsibility pretty heavily. We know we're the sole organization that's responsible for marketing this city, and we have to market it not just nationally but internationally as a premier travel and meeting destination. We need to have messages that talk to visitors, that talk to meeting planners, that talk to tour operators and travel agents and those social influencers, as well as media. And one of the most important things that we have to do is to develop the messaging, the invitation that will bring people here, the brand, if you will. So many of you were along with us on the journey that we took a couple of years ago as we did our advertising campaign. And that's one of the most important things for us, to get the advertising messages, to produce high-end collateral, those destination guides, publications, have online and email connections with visitors and meeting planners from around the globe, social media, and more. And here's my elevator speech when people tell me, well, what is it that you're trying to do besides get people here? I always say that for us, the mission is we want to cut through the clutter and have you start thinking about Scottsdale. We want it to be in the top 3 to 5 consideration set if someone is thinking, honey, where should we go on vacation? Where should we hold our meeting? If we're not in the top 3 to 5 list, we're not going to book that business. And it takes a lot to cut through the clutter. Now, again, some of you might be thinking, well, why do we even need Experience Scottsdale? Have you been downtown lately? There's not even a parking space there. We have great weather, there's no hurricanes, we're safe. And yes, all of that is true. But if you're looking outside into this industry, it probably looks, well, pretty hospitality-like. It looks so genteel, right? The tourism industry is probably one of the fiercest competitive industries on the planet, and I would take it up against almost any consumer product company, because the visitors that we're going after are sought by everyone. We're not about quantity, we're about quantity. We want our visitors to be like our residents, and our research says that they are. So the ones that we're going after can go anywhere, and they do. So we don't anymore just compete with Palm Springs, we're competing with the south of France. Or if you watched the Super Bowl, you saw $1 million plus commercial for, what? Australia. That's our competition. So like any product, travel has to have investment for us to remain relevant, for us to do the job. Otherwise, we're not going to be the economic engine that we need to be for this community. And that's why, again, when we, about a couple years ago, decided to refresh our brand, we took 18 months to make sure that we did not mess it up. So what we did with our research is that we went and did lots of research about how travel has changed, how our customers changed, what do we have to offer that's changed, and most importantly, we went to all of our target markets, and we sat down and did research with people who have been to Scottsdale, people who have never chosen Scottsdale, people of all ages that were customers of ours, boomers, Gen Xers, millennials, people from, again, all over the country. We showed them the messages we were looking at, we showed them up against our competitors, and they pretty much told us, don't speak to us this way if you want us to come, do speak to us this way if you want us to book. So at the end of the day, when we showed them our ads, I can tell you that with that research, we knew that those who saw those were interested, their interest in visiting Scottsdale rose by 25% as a result of doing that testing. So here we are, we know we have the right messages, which is a great feeling of confidence. We also do research, we've been doing it for decades. One in particular, visitor industry customer analysis, shows us down to the zip code and the household where our affluent customers are coming from. So we don't have to necessarily buy all of Manhattan and use our whole budget that way when we know New York is a target market. We know just where to go to buy the most efficient buy, and again, with the best message. So this is the story that we've been telling all over the world. Some of you, well, I don't know if you've been in Chicago or New York or San Francisco or LA recently. If you have, you've seen this. If you haven't, I'm just delighted to show you that we are taking 2 blocks in New York, Madison Square Garden, in Penn Station, and in Chicago, wrapping trains, on wallscapes. This is an out-of-home advertising buy, and I will tell you, in my entire long career here, I have never seen a campaign that has gotten more positive impact than this campaign and our advertising campaign. By that I mean people normally don't contact you unless they're upset about something, right? We're getting emails and phone calls and letters and all sorts of communication telling us how much they like this campaign. And one really stuck out for me, and I just want to share this with you. It's not the most articulate or beautiful testimonial I've ever gotten, but this was by a man who lives in Manhattan, and he was proud to tell us he's a native New Yorker. He rides that train in every day to work, comes back, and he's immune to the ads. He's a New Yorker. He doesn't see any of the ads, and he's proud of it. He's riding that train in and out. I mean, I can just hear his voice in my head. And he says, after a while, I look up, and I noticed it was the color of your ads. And I started noticing the design and how beautiful it was. And he said, and I just started thinking about Scottsdale. It was like, I should come to Scottsdale. I was like, yes, we broke through the clutter. I can't wait. He's going to come to Scottsdale. I want to take him to lunch. So that is the kind of, that is what we're trying to do. We're infiltrating people's psyche to make sure that they think about Scottsdale. So here we are, bringing, people from around the world here through a campaign that obviously, according to our metrics, is working. But we also use the research that we do to tell us how can we help need time periods. And I'm going to give you an example of that. 6 years ago, our board of directors said, you can do a better job bringing people here during the holiday season. Why does someone have to fly to Hawaii? Why can't they just come to Scottsdale during the holidays between Thanksgiving and New Year's? So we did our research. We figured out who likes to travel during that time, who has a propensity to come here. We did our messaging. Fast forward now, 6 years later, we have been able to raise the occupancy in Scottsdale resorts and hotels 15.5%, which is great. Because it means those merchants can keep their doors open longer and the galleries can stay open, and people that are thriving during that time period is great. But also, it's given us as residents a boon, because think about all the product that we have now during the holiday season. I mean, the Fairmont Princess started it all with their Christmas extravaganza, but even down to where we have our own Scottsdazzle. That product is great, yes, for visitors, but it's great for us too. So now that we've been emboldened with that success, we're going to take on the need period of all times, which is, of course, the summer. And we're just going to tell the truth. We live in a desert, and you know what? The desert is hot. And it's not just temperature-wise. The desert has lots of hot amenities. There's all sorts of hot events that are coming on board. There's wonderful things about the desert, even in the summer, especially in the summer. So we are having a leisure campaign and a meeting planner campaign. It's going to be regional in this market, Tucson and Southern California, and just wait to see, because I think we're going to be lining up to come here in the summer. Hopefully when I come back here in 6 years, I'll be able to tell you it's somebody on some train somewhere said, I'm going to go to Scottsdale, and I'm going to wait and go in August. So as I'm kind of wrapping up, I just want to say thank you to all the event producers that were here. We have such a blessing to work with these events. We work with every single one of them. And I wanted to say one thing. They're great for visitors. They're great for us. But there's another thing that they're really great for, and that is that captains of industry and C-level executives sometimes make their first toe in the water for Scottsdale at one of these events. There are great stories about all of these events, but I've heard some recent ones about Barrett-Jackson, where somebody will come out, they'll go to the show, they'll come back for vacation. The next thing you know, they bought a home here. The next thing you know, they're sending their business here, or actually relocating their business here. And that is something that I think we can't forget about events. But don't take my word for it. So we're doing a lot of research, as I keep mentioning. Last year, we did some research to test how are we doing? How is this advertising campaign doing that Experience Scottsdale is deploying? Is it working? And we also said, does it help economic development? Because that's really important. Tourism is, I like to say, the secret weapon for economic development. And Tourism Economics and Longwinds International would agree. So one of the things that they saw was that people who were exposed to Experience Scottsdale's advertising and who then came to visit were 226% more likely to view Scottsdale as a good place to start a business. So that's a great foundation for all of us. Lastly, I want to talk a little bit about community engagement. And it's been mentioned today before, and I'm really glad to hear it, we are blessed to have a city manager like Jim Thompson. We're blessed to have a council. And you, as residents, and you and the business community who support tourism, will understand it's a force for good that can help in many ways. And because of the openness with our city, we find that our staff is working literally in virtually every department of the city, trying to find ways that we can use tourism as a mechanism to make this community even better. And our board challenged us with 3 areas in which they wanted us to articulate things that would be good, yes, for tourism, but really good for us in Scottsdale that we're working on with the city. Number 1 is product, experience, and development. Think canal convergence as an example. Transportation and regional connectivity. If I had another few moments, I'd tell you about a great program that we have right now, getting visitors from the airport around Scottsdale without having to rent a car. Downtown activation and connectivity. Jim talked about that a little bit, trying to make this more activated in downtown as a result of the 5-year strategic tourism plan. And really activating all the things that make us unique. The Sonoran Desert, the arts, the culture, the Western spirit, the sports, the connectivity, the charm of our downtown, the architecture, all of those things. And lastly, the reason we can be charged with things like that is because when we are doing well, as we are now, and the visitors come and they leave their bed tax dollars behind, and again, these are not your tax dollars, I mean, they're tax dollars, of course, but you're not generating them as sales tax unless you're staying at a property. So the great thing about this is that the more money we have, the more we can do to plow it back into the community. 50%, yes, goes for us for marketing, but the other 50% goes for making this community great. Just like if you love the Museum of the West, it's here, and Mike Fox would tell you, and perhaps Jim would too, because of tourism. If you love Canal Convergence, that was seeded by tourism dollars, and there's so much more that we can do together. So I want to close by thanking you for supporting tourism, supporting our efforts, and also if you can't get your restaurant reservation in March, I'm so sorry, try August, because that's going to be the new hot time. Thank you for all that you do and all your support.
Thank you to both Rachel and Jim. There's a lot of things we can follow up on here, that's for sure. And maybe we'll start with just kind of tying the some loose ends up from the first panel that we heard about. And we heard about parking issues from Andy and Nick, and as it relates to being up north and maybe all across the city, and also upgrades for some of their facilities. So Jim, maybe you can talk a little bit more about, what are some of the options for parking if some of that state land gets gobbled up in different uses, and maybe some more updates on where we are with Westworld, and even some numbers around the Scottsdale Stadium. So in terms of upgrading the facilities for both those venues and parking, what more can you tell us as you work your way through that?
Parking is a challenge in all parts of town, to be frank. I mean, when we have large venues, in particular during those events, there's times of year that there's more than adequate parking. There's times of year where there isn't, and that's normally during this time of year, the last couple of months, where we see the large volumes of people coming. Up north, obviously, we have parking at Westworld, inadequate for the two major events that occur on the north end, and when the state lands go away. So we're looking at various options. We're looking at partnerships. We're looking at parking that already exists in structures up there. Can we use them during the weekends and maybe some downtime, or 1 or 2 days during the week that we can activate those and utilize those, as well as partnerships. We looked at a structure recently, and I haven't gone back with any specific proposal, but a structure to park 4,000 cars up there would run us around $100 million. That's a big number. So when you start to think about the amount of cars that you have to park for some of these events, it's immense. So what do we look at? And I think Rachel started to touch on it, which is a new partnership with some of our rideshare providers, maybe Uber, Lyft, and other alternatives. And those continue to go on the rise at many of these major events. So if you look at the Open, the amount of Uber and Lyft traffic that occurs, as well as at Merritt Jackson, it's immense, and it continues to grow. And those are options that eliminate some of your parking needs. Downtown, you get many of them, and I know there's both sides of the discussion regarding the bikes, and so I'm not even going to go there today. But there are a lot of people using them. We came out in the first few months. We were number 2 in North America for utilization. That's the largest utilization that any of the companies that came here have seen. And we were saturated. We were saturated with bikes. We had 6 come in over a period of time. There's 2 that seem to are probably going to survive that. In the summer, I suspect they'll clean out some of that, and we'll let the market bear. But everybody was trying to saturate the market to gain market share. But another alternative, and we'll continue to see more and more of that, the driverless cars and the other methodologies, just things of what does future transportation have in store for us that we haven't currently thought of. And that may change. The car sharing, another huge one you see in particular in areas like San Francisco, where parking is of a prime. You pay more for parking in some cases than you do for many other things in your monthly expense there. So we continue to look at it. I think we have some solutions that we're going to be bringing forth for consideration, and I think we'll find resolve to that. I'm not worried about it at first, and there's some challenges with it, but I'm not as worried as maybe it's been gravitated to. The improvements at the various facilities, I know the tent came up. The tent's been an issue. We talk about it every year. My game plan is not to talk about it every year. It's just to come forward and say, it's good for 3, 5, 6 years, and at the end of its useful life, we'll deal with it then. But for now, to talk about it every year when it still has useful life, we need to utilize it to its fullest extent. And then at some point in the future, I'm sure we'll have a resolve to that. I'm going to meet with Barrett Jackson and those that use the facility. We have a lot of programming that goes in there. It's not just the car auction. There's a lot of shows and opportunities that occur in that tent structure, and so we need to think about that and the loss activities associated with that. Probably the key to all of these venues, and Rachel and I have had some in-depth discussion this last year, walking into this year, is how do we activate them in a different way than what we've had in the past? How do we fill those up? How do we achieve that on a different level? And so there's some changes we're going to have to make. Probably this fall, I'll be going back to the Mayor and Council with some plans for Westworld. Associated with the business model, how we do it, why we do it the way we do it, maybe opening doors that we haven't opened up in the past. Similarly to the stadium, as we do improvements to the stadium, we're going to look at those opportunities as well. Let's open the doors. Let's get people in there year-round rather than just during the month of March, and let's try to maximize that resource that we have to the benefit of all in the community. And we've started to see some of that programming occur up at Westworld, but I'm hopeful to see even more down at the stadium. I think it's just a wonderful opportunity. We got these beautiful resources that we've invested in, and how do we maximize them and to the benefit of all? And I think we can achieve that.
Can you share any numbers that are happening in terms of the conversations with the Giants and the stadium improvements?
They're big numbers. Yeah, I'll just say they're big. It's not inclusive of the $800 million number I mentioned earlier today of that need. And we also the project that we haven't discussed about of late, and we won't probably until later down the road. And that's the Desert Edge or Desert Discovery Center. That is not inclusive of the $800 million in need. And if we go out and look at $350 million or $450 million of that number or some number associated with that to try to move those forward, that's probably where we'll end up this fall with some offering to that. But the numbers, I would say they fall between the 40 and 65 million for the improvements that are necessary at the Giant Stadium and associated cost.
Rachel, I've heard the word complacency several times. Carter talked about it, Dennis did, you did. You're on top of the world. So in Scottsdale in general, sometimes it's easy to be complacent in a city as beautiful as what we live in. How do you keep your competitive edge, you and your team, as you look at that whole issue of complacency when you're doing so well right now? What do you do to keep the edge and to stay ahead of the competition?
Well, it's really easy not to be complacent when you've been around long enough and you've been knocked down a few times, as we all have. And we know that everything is cyclical. You can always be on the top, and the next few years you can find yourself at the middle or the bottom. And that's where we were in the recession. Now we are at the top of our hotel industry nationwide, and just frankly, less than a decade ago, we were number 25. And, a few years prior to that, before going into the recession, we were at the top again. And I had hotels even say to me, I almost feel sorry for anyone that has to compete with Scottsdale. And I'm like, well, I don't. Because it is a cycle. So what we need to do is continually look at not where we are right now, but to be planning always for the future. So that's why every campaign that we have, we are always looking at what's the next reiteration of it. Speaking of that, right now we're going back out to testing because we want to make sure that when I go to Jim's office or any councilman's office, councilwoman's office, that I can say we know that this is working. So we're going back out to test this campaign, this new one, because it's run now for almost a year and a half, and to see, is it working? And if it's not, we need to tweak it. So we're already thinking about what will the next campaign be? What are we adding? And the way that we're so blessed because we have this fund of tourism dollars that maybe it can't pay for everything in the city's needs, but it can do a lot. So we need to start looking out and saying, how do we best articulate all those things that are for us? We're building new product constantly. We were just in our office yesterday talking about a brand new contemporary art month that we're going to be helping to produce with the city and our partners and the cultural institutions and galleries. So we're always looking ahead for new product because if you stand still and if you are complacent, for sure the downturn will come faster.
Let's talk a little bit about transportation. So you mentioned briefly that and transportation is a big issue for the city overall, not just for moving visitors around, and maybe you can talk a little bit about your new airport thing that's happening, but also moving workers around. Major employers like our resorts and others in the industry are finding it really to be an obstacle in recruiting and retaining workers. So there's a lot of issues going on with transportation right now. I don't know, there's a lot of solutions out there, but what about the issue of transportation? How are we going to facilitate making it easier for people to get around, both local workers and visitors alike? Jim, why don't you start us with that?
Well, I think we continue to look at where technology is taking us, where those opportunities exist, and I'll let Rachel share with her at least some recent changes that we made to get people from airports into the community. And bikes, I mean, alternative means. The buses only serve so much, and in fact, they don't serve farther north. So some of the resorts up there and the employment base that occurs, they stop, and then they have a mile or two to get to work, and so many individuals are finding alternative means to get there, and hopefully we continue to add those. I look at transportation. It's a huge cost, and public transit, there's some value and some less on the other side, depending on how you look at it. And I know in Scottsdale we've been challenged to discuss the light rail and other options, and again, those may be solutions of today, but are they solutions of tomorrow? And I think that's where we're looking right now, is to look out in that crystal ball to see how those ways of transporting people are changing immensely, and how do we embrace that? How do we prepare for that? How do we have the infrastructure in place to ensure that those newer ways to transport people from point A to B is available to us? And that's what we're tasked with. But it's hard. A lot of us, going to resist change. Change tends to be resisted, but I think we have some great partners. We continue to partner with lots of industries and look at where to go and what to do. And Uber, Lyft, I've used them both. I've used alternative means when I've traveled to other communities. Taxi cabs are the kind of a thing of the past. You still see them, but again, everything is in that change mode. And I think instant gratification, instant, if I'm a traveler, I arrive at an airport, I don't want to stand and wait in a line. I want to be able to jump in a car, get to where I'm going. Rental cars is changing immensely as well. You no longer will rent, which there's impacts to that, to stadiums and stadium financing and other things. You no longer are going to rent cars at the airport. You're most likely going to Uber, Lyft, or find some other means to get to your hotel. Once you're at the hotel will probably have rental cars available for you, and you're not going to use them constantly. You may go out, rather than having a rental car, having to pay for the parking in many hotels in many cities, you may just want it for 2 hours in the day. And so you'll go rent a car for a couple hours and then use other alternative means of transportation throughout your stay. And that model continues to grow and grow and grow, and I see that occurring. So there's so many changes that are coming forth. The building of infrastructure, there's some major dollars out there available to us that if we're not successful in going forward and finding financing mechanisms this fall, we'll lose that matching money. And it's about 75-80% of the monies are matching money. So for small investment on our side of $70 million, we get $250 million more in investment into the community. So again, that's why that issue is so important. But that's just the transportation element of what we're talking about.
Rachel, how about the transportation program you have going for visitors?
Well, one of the things that we do is benchmark what are other communities doing that seem to really work well. And we know that we have a challenge with transportation. We know that because meeting planners are telling us and visitors have told us that we're not as easy to get around. There aren't as many options. So we started looking at what are other areas doing. And so we developed a program, and I have to give a shout out to Jim, to the transportation staff at the city, to the council, because it was a really innovative, out-of-the-box program. We're taking some bed tax dollars right now, and we're using a trial program. It's a trial to see what would happen if we worked with Uber and Lyft and TransStyle Super Shuttle, and if they had a message to their customers when they arrived at the airport, if they could come to Scottsdale, there's a discount, and it's geo-fenced. They can only go to Scottsdale. Even if your address as a hotel says Scottsdale, but you're not really in Scottsdale, they won't drop you off there. And then not only to your hotel and you back at a discount, but you could also, if you could go to Barrett-Jackson or you could go to the Waste Management, you can take another 2 trips intra-Scottsdale at a discount. What we're trying to do is get people out of the terrible experience of renting that car at the airport, which if you've ever done it, it's not a great warm welcome to here you are in Scottsdale. We want them to rent their cars at the Scottsdale hotels where we get the tax. So what the city's hoping to learn from this is there a solution for not just visitors, but is there a long-term solution for us, for residents and workers? So some communities have done a program like this. They've literally taken buses offline that have saved the city millions of dollars, and they actually have contracts with Uber and Lyft and other rideshare like that. And it's really innovative. The people who take those means of transportation are much happier, and the city is saving a lot of dollars that can go elsewhere. So compliments to the city for taking this on. This will go through our season. We'll reevaluate it and see if it's something we want to do again or to tweak it. But it's a start.
Old Town Scottsdale, heart and soul of our city, stood the test of time. But things are changing rapidly in both the demographics of our visitors, which are getting younger, and Old Town, which is not. How do we keep the sparkle and the heartbeat strong for generations to come? Rachel, why don't you start us on that?
Well, I think we are doing that. What we're doing is the entire 5-year strategic plan that just recently concluded was all about activity and infrastructure development, redevelopment in downtown. Why? Because it is the soul of our community. Why? Because it should be the quintessential place, at least one place where people are like, I gotta go there before I leave this community as a visitor. And we have some opportunities. We're looking at, the dream would be if we could start at the Civic Center Park or Mall area, make it walkable all the way to the museum, all the way up to the canal banks, all the way to the entertainment district, have places that are activated along the way, places for you to sit and linger, all sorts of wonderful infrastructure along the way that makes it really attractive and activated along the way, like canal convergence, and maybe 12 months of the year. So things are happening right now in terms of a plan that if we had the funds and if we can even parse it out in phases, could activate downtown, Old Town in a way that I think all of us would be really proud. And that also would allow us to really look at the arts and culture DNA that we have and activate that as well. The canal bank right now that has canal convergence is now also going to be moving to fall and need time, and we're activating lots of things around that. So those are dollars that are going to great use, and people are noticing. And once we can get residents downtown too, to Old Town, visitors don't want to go to a place where it's just for them. Visitors want to be where we go, where as residents are. So this should be ideally activated so that all of us go to Old Town and visitors will follow and the buzz continues and it's just a marvelous experience.
Jim, there are 2, if not 3, major developments about ready to come off the drawing board and into the public spotlight. What do you see happening downtown over the next year or next 3 years?
Exactly that. We have so much opportunity. There's little points down there, and each of them I think are very synergistic and they're game changers for the Old Town area. South of the Canal Bank, you get an entire stretch. All 3 sections, may it be on one side of Drinkwater or Goldwater, and then on the other side of Scottsdale, the corner of Scottsdale and Camelback, we'll probably see redeveloped. You have immense number of hotels and additional opportunities that are coming forth. But I go all the way down to the start at the Giants Day. I mean, who in Scottsdale Stadium there where the Giants play, then you across the street you have a hospital. And many downtowns are not even fortunate to have an amenity like that, the employment center associated with that. You get the performing arts center and what Scottsdale Arts does for downtown, and then you walk through the Civic Center Plaza with beautiful art. And this time of year you go down there and there's just hundreds of people and thousands of people at given times taking pictures and enjoying just that area. And I think revitalization of that is going to be key to us in the future. There's some improvements that need to occur in some of the infrastructure. People say, well, Jim, you need to fill up the fountains. Well, they leak. I can't fill up the fountains. So we need to do those improvements to all the fountains. I would love to reactivate some of that and maybe change. You have a smaller pockets of development occurring around there right now with a smaller level developer who's got some wonderful ideas that's doing great things, and a little conference center that's been put in. Then you continue on, you go over by Museum in the West, and the Loma project, which I mentioned earlier, huge project, is going to activate that areas in ways that we haven't seen, if ever. And then continues along Rachel's path is tying that all together, then going back to the Canal Bank and stretching that all the way into what many call the entertainment district. There's a big number of individuals that come. A lot of times, I know some enjoy the entertainment district, some probably don't. We always have opinions on all sides of the equation, but the one thing that holds true is that if I am going to travel somewhere, I want the ability to do as much things as I possibly can. And I think without having the restaurants and the art and the various things to enjoy, and entertainment being one of it, I wouldn't probably go there. I have to look at it and say, where can I get everything? And I can get that in downtown, in Old Town Scottsdale. And so for me, and travelers, as Rachel mentioned, from around the world, where can you go and have everything within walking distance of what you might want to enjoy? And that's part of it. Because people enjoy to go out and, they're on vacation. They want to relax. And so again, I know there's pluses and minuses to that, but it is an integral part of our success. So I think we're going to have a wonderful next couple of years in Old Town, and I think some of these projects, when they move forward, are going to create a synergy that we have never seen in the past.
If all the hotels that are on the drawing board get built, how many will that be?
8.
8 new hotels downtown. Old
Yeah,
Town.
it's 7 downtown, then of course the one down by Sky Song, so that one we can kind of add to it. And I suspect that portion of Scottsdale Boulevard will start to redevelop as we start putting those pieces together. We'd love to see some of that occur and carry that forward. And then you got, as I mentioned, the projects to the north. But there's 5 slated for just in the Old Town area, and then 2 kind of on the outskirts, and then 1 down at Sky Song.
Rachel, you're going to fill them all, right?
You know it.
Let's talk a little bit about the millennials. The millennial generation is now bigger than the baby boomers, which is hard to believe, and they're coming on fast. Are we ready for their impact on tourism? How are you going to have to change to deliver what they want, which is far different from maybe what we've been looking at in the past? And are they a threat to you or an opportunity?
Oh, I think they're definitely an opportunity. And again, it amazes me, but the research for our advertising campaign showed us that the messages that we're putting out there to say, please come here, they resonate equally, whether you are a millennial or a Gen Xer or even a baby boomer. And what we're finding is that as the millennials get a little bit more in their career, and they don't act much differently than many of our traditional customers. I think they want experiences. Every single one of our customers, whatever their age, wants a unique experience, and we provide so much that could not be had elsewhere, anywhere in the country. So I think the millennials, as they continue to grow up, and the one that's behind them, Generation Z, they say is very much like the baby boomer audience, which may give some of us in this audience a great deal of comfort. But each one of them brings an opportunity, because the one thing that travel has to do is adapt to change. Our whole community changes, travel expectation changes, but with that, if you can hang on to what makes you special and don't ever give that character away, and then just evolve and bring it forward, it's a great opportunity for the community to keep growing, so that it also keeps our residents growing as well.
Cultural tourism is a big buzzword now. Is that part of what you're thinking about for millennials and everybody else for that matter?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I just mentioned that just yesterday we're talking about adding cultural tourism every way that we can, including a brand new idea for a contemporary art month, like we had Western Art Month, and like we have these wonderful art walks and canal convergence. I think art is something that we can capitalize on. I hope we double down on. We have some tourism dollars available to help us do that. And I think that kind of art and culture, even though the articulation may be different from generation to generation, it's something that everybody enjoys because it's a visceral experience, and it's something that is authentic to us.
When we leave here in a few minutes, it's going to be beautiful outside, but we all know summer's coming, and we've talked about that a little bit already. What specifically do you think we can do in terms of new events, gigantic fans, I know, whatever you need, to bring people into Scottsdale, besides making August go? What specifically can we do? New events? What's it going to take?
Well, I think events people travel for events. I mean, just look at the panel that we had here today. You know, some of the people that have never been to Scottsdale before, their first experience was at an event. And then they love it, and they come back, and then they go deeper into the community. They're a visitor. Then sometimes they bring a meeting here. Sometimes they buy a home here, second home, or maybe they retire here. Or the ultimate is they also move their business here. So I think that events are really important, particularly as we try to articulate the need time periods. March is pretty much okay, but let's look at events that can happen in the fall, as we are now, like moving canal convergence from February to October, November. Let's look at things that can happen in the summer. We have this beautiful facility at Westworld. We should have all sorts of events that are happening there during the summer, including that, what is that new one, Fahrenheit something or other, that Jason Rose is putting on, that's going to be the hottest day of the year and the hottest event, and I hope that that will break some great records for attendance too.
I can only imagine how hot it's going to be that day, exactly.
You're going to be the first one there.
There
I
you go,
guarantee.
absolutely. Hey, please join me in thanking our keynote speakers today, Jim Thompson and Rachel Sacco. Let's give a shout out also to our first panel, another round of applause for them, and David Bentler too, please.